Jason Dickerson from DreamPod 9.
Alright, my name is Jason Dickerson from DreamPod 9. I'm a line editor for Heavy Gear Blitz, which means I come up with all the rules, I do the writing, primary lead writer, and game development for the Heavy Gear Blitz and Heavy Gear Arena line. I have written a number of books. My most recent book is Perfect Storm. I have another book coming out in the fall called Forged in Fire. It's the Southern Field Guide. It will be replacing the Southern Army list in Locked and Loaded, and it's in the same format as Perfect Storm.
So what about Northern fans? Is North next?
Northern fans are going to have a little bit of a wait. We're going to be doing Peace Forever next, and it'll probably be out maybe middle of next year. Northern book is getting quite a few new models, so we're actually going to do some extra testing on it. Same thing with Peace Forever, they're getting extra models, but it's a smaller book, so we'll be able to get it out faster.
And so just looking at the books here, this is the one you're referring to?
Yes,
Perfect Storm. The newest, you wrote that. Black Talon?
I did not write Black Talon, that was the prior writer. I did work on the field manual.
So the field guide, the field manual.
The field manual I actually worked on at the beginning of last year. It actually streamlined some of the rules from Locked and Loaded. It is currently the most recent and most, what am I trying to say, like, it is the rule book right now. So if you're going to play the game, you want to use the field manual rules. One of the things we did in here to make it a little easier to use is we included more charts, including flow charts, so it actually takes you step by step on how to resolve specific actions.
Yeah, so like electronic countermeasures versus electronic, countermeasures? Or
those are detailed.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go through the electronic warfare rules, there is a COM event.
It can get a little complex, but you should also be able to figure it out.
Right, it's basically, if you have a question after reading this information and this information, you can go step by step and just apply what you're doing in game. And once you get it, you get it. But for the beginner, it's a very easy way of just following the chart. We also improved the range bands, so instead of having 5 range bands, we'd have 3 range bands, including the 3rd range band, which is Extreme, which basically opens up the entire table. The 2 primary ones, actually, we got rid of a bonus for point blank because we wanted to close out the point blank shots where it became like a 1-inch scrum in the middle of the board, which was not what we wanted the game to be. We wanted to actually push the range bands out. We also wanted to emphasize the more modern style tactics with cover and concealment, and made it a little bit more brutal by reducing the range bands.
So speaking of brutality, New Coal is kind of your baby.
New Coal is one of my babies.
You didn't come up with the concept of New Coal. That's been around in the fluff, correct?
That's right. New Coal existed in the fluff as far back as Into the Badlands and Life on Terra Nova, which were 2 books from 1st edition. We basically expanded on the story of New Coal, emphasized the relationship that Port Arthur Corps and through Port Arthur Corps New Coal, since they're part of the same faction basically, their relationship with the Humanist Alliance, and most of the technology that you see that New Coal has comes from the Humanist Alliance, which is the most advanced Terra Novan league on the planet. And since the Interpolar War, the Humanist Alliance has broken off. They have much stronger ties with New Coal, and are basically their strongest allies, and vice versa. So the new technology, the reason it's so advanced is because you have Earth technology mixed with the highest level of Terra Novan technology. And while the league, it's not really a full-blown league, is the smallest on the planet, they also have the most access to technology.
So looking forward to the future, you got the new Southern Field Guide. What's its special subtitle?
Forged in Fire.
Okay. You have that coming out when? Maybe in the fall?
It'll be in the fall, prior to Christmas. So we're looking for a late October, early November release. That's what we're looking for. We hope to get it out by then. But it'll definitely be out before Christmas.
Okay. And then it could even possibly ship in some of the different Army boxes, the starter ones, possibly, for anything new?
We are actually going to be redoing the starter army. We're looking at doing more to keep it cost effective. We're actually looking at doing like a PDF style thing with the starter armies. We are going to get away from calling them starter.
So you were saying something about the starter armies, that you might be going to PDFs for the starter armies.
Instead of having the locked and loaded in there so we can actually do a new cold book and a southern book, we're probably not going to do a small form factor book of those because the way we laid it out, it's just not going to be physically possible to do it in a way that it's going to be readable in that scale. It's pretty graphic intensive, and we just don't think the quality would be there. So instead, we're looking at possibly doing a PDF insert in the new starter armies. We're also going to rebrand them instead of calling them starter armies, just calling them new cold army boxes. I think there's some misperception that the starter army isn't enough to play. They're actually tournament-ready boxes, so you can actually play a 750-point army most of the time in the starter armies. So you can basically open them up, assemble them, and then run to the tournament and play them if you wanted to.
You wrote both the fluff and you're the lead designer on the rules, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and so things like restructuring Black Talons, that all falls to you.
Right, Black Talons, we are working on some ideas with them. They're a little bit down the line as far as importance. We are working on the core factions right now, so we'll get around to them eventually.
Could we ever get a black or dark vehicle of its own besides a dark hoplite?
That is definitely possible. You'll notice as the new books come out, usually we'll be accompanying that with anywhere from 8 to 12 new miniatures. So we're looking to expand, and in some cases we are probably going to be remodeling some older stuff, particularly vehicles.
Your interest in DreamPod 9 and Heavy Gear goes back to 1994. You weren't with the company.
I wasn't with the company. Actually got my start with the company by doing what I recommend a lot of aspiring writers or game designers do. We have a fan magazine called Aurora. It's fan content. It's officially published as an amateur press. We actually review those and look for talent through that. It shows us your skills, and it also lets you get published and get your name out there. So you can submit through the website for Aurora, and we put that out every 2 months roughly. So, and Oliver Bowman does that. He does a really good job of that.
What about stuff like the Barnaby? Was it already in the fluff, and and now that the miniature has been made, or
the Barnaby gear transport?
Yeah, exactly.
That's always been in the fluff. It was in the Southern Vehicle Compendium too. It is a gear transport. The northern version is called the Behemoth. It looks similar, but it's a little bit more square and angular.
But you oversaw its creation in the rules, right?
Well, that's actually possibly going to make an appearance in the Southern Field Guide. So.
Because it's a Southern transport vehicle.
That's right. There aren't any rules for it in Blitz right now. Right now it's just a terrain piece, so. But that might change in a couple of months.
Okay. And if we ever got some actual drop ships or things like that, I know the scale could be way off, but you would be the person to do that.
More than likely.
Yeah.
I do oversee the rules, so at the very least I'll be pushing for the creation. I do have assistant game designers, Dan Colin, Brad Bellows, and Salim. They assist me in basically managing the playtest teams. They also help write rules. They're fantastic guys. They do a good job. Also, I have one individual, Michael Ensred, who also works with me in that capacity. He's kind of retired, but he did work on the Southern guide with us, so I want to give him credit as well. They do work for me, and sometimes I'll hand off rules for them to develop, and then we distill them into finalized forms.
Now, what do you play yourself?
Oh, faction-wise?
Yeah.
I play Southern and New Call. So you wonder where the books came out.
Those tanks are pretty great, though. The Hussars, right?
The Hussars are fantastic. I love that model.
Yeah. Which one do you like best? The transformed into the running, or the tank mode, or the robot?
I like the robot mode.
The walker.
Yeah, I like the big robot.
And what tends to happen in the office? I mean, I assume you guys play every once in a while, right?
We try to.
Yeah.
Sometimes work overwhelms us.
How does John Wynn play?
Oh, brutally. He takes no prisoners. He always comes up with interesting new lists and likes to overrun his opponents.
Okay, and also we have. I assume we also have you to thank for the hover tank rules, the H90, right?
HHC90. Those are experimental rules. They're in Gear Up. When we get around to the CEF book, you'll see them made official and tweaked. So those were partially mine, but again, I work with individuals besides myself on developing rules.
What did you think of the TV show?
Well, you know, in game it was considered a Southern children's show, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Then you must be excited also for the video game.
Yes, very much. Very excited about it. The guys at StompyBot are very professional, very passionate about the subject matter, and we've got some really talented guys. These guys have worked on some other projects in the past. StompyBot itself is a new company, but there's a lot of talented guys who've been in the industry for a while that we developing it.
You work with a lot of Canadians.
I do.
But you're an American, right?
I am an American. In fact, I'm from Tennessee. That's where I call home. And generally I'm in Tennessee for most of the year. Sometimes I'll come up and see the guys in Canada. So.
You work from afar. Someone like Greg, your art director, does not.
Greg also telecommutes.
He does. Okay.
Yeah, lives in Toronto. So we're actually a very international company because of that. We have artists in Japan. We've got artists in Spain. We've got artists in Germany. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody. Spain, Germany, France. We have French artists. Yeah, we even have a Russian.
Here's Greg, right here.
Art Director for Greg Perkins.
Yes, I think right there, that's our transition. Thank you. Yeah. Greg.
Hi.
So you inherited the artistic stylings of the old game.
Yeah.
Right. So one of your goals was to keep everything very much in line with that?
In some respects, you kind of have to, because there's such a deep world, and with any gaming system, fans are really connected to the roots and the origins of the game. And as a fan, I wanted to hold on to those. So it's always been crucial for me to find and develop artists that can achieve some of that, if not all of it, and then push it even further than the pod was able to do before. Because back in the 90s, they were pushing boundaries, but they were also, capped at limits of what computers could do at the time. So it's like, these days, everyone does what they were doing in the 90s plus. So
Heavy Gear has a consistently strong look, visual appeal. I mean, obviously you would feel that yourself too. How have you achieved that, whereas maybe some other miniature companies, they might have a couple of designs that are kind of cool, but everything from Heavy Gear, I think there's probably not a gear or a frame that looks bad that you would be embarrassed of playing with, maybe except for the Barnaby. I've been talking about the Barnaby a lot during the show. I like the concept of the Barnaby, but the model is not the prettiest. Everything else is pretty gorgeous.
A lot of it has to do with like some companies or some intellectual properties go for a very kind of fantasy quality. Now, occasionally we go for like a little more oomph for cool factor, of course, but we always try to stick to what could be engineered, or what you could conceivably build within, like, when you start thinking of like material tolerances, like the thickness of materials, where the pilot goes, how many weapon systems can actually fit on it before it can't even move. And if you're really loading it up with weapons, you're not just there's not just some magical motive device that moves it. The weapon gets bigger, the engine gets bigger, or it doubles up, or it's got an alternative power source. And like when we go with new designs, it's always like, what's the role? What makes them unique? How is this one different from another one in the army? So it's like with New Cool, a lot of their character came from basically a different movement mode, because they were from the remnants of Earth, so they had some higher technology, they had amazing engineers, so that's something to keep in mind. They had access to higher technology. Then you had basically smaller city-states that were supposed to be like oil and energy rich. So they could adopt some really wild secondary movement modes, and they go with basically hover and jump jets. So, and also like with Asara, you've got extreme energy use with basically a tank that transforms into a walker. That's, so it's a lot of that comes into working on the character of a faction, but drawing the character out of the roots of the RPGs from the 90s, extrapolating and making it visually appealing and distinct within the wargame. That's actually been quite difficult. I mean, like we're taking some risks by going with like basically creating these gear striders for each faction. It will go back further into the lore, but we're not going to reveal to the fans exactly what that is yet. But basically, each gear strider should be something that you can point to in an army and say, this army uses these tactics. And that should be visually represented. And
so like in a coyote, you mean, or?
Yeah, exactly. It's more versatile, but it's like the gear striders. Basically, right now we've got the Hussar, so it's a transforming tank. It's versatile on terrain, so it's flexible that way. It's heavy on support, and it's got some wild technology in it. Then you've got the Cataphract, which is heavily armored, uses advanced systems, and basically highlights the armaments of Paxton Arms, which is key on the world of Terra Nova, selling arms to all the different factions. And then the latest one for the Southern Republic is the Drake, which it's bristling with weapons, but it emphasizes their kind of play on area of effect weapons and also direct assault. And so we're going to continue this theme for each faction because the difference, the main difference between like a role-playing game and a war game is you're limited to visuals rather than words a lot of the time. And so, if you're not the RPG, you could almost say could be more realistic as hard sci-fi goes. So all the gears would be the same size or something like that. But in the war game, if you're looking at the field and the three things that you're basically limited to are aesthetics, color, and size. If you're not using all three, you're not getting the most out of your range, and you're not really communicating to the fans what does what. So that's where heavy gear moving into Blitz and the war game has changed a bit of the development and a bit of conceptualization of the designs of heavy gear.
And Robert bought into your vision. I assume it came with you that you wanted to differentiate each design, or did Robert here? He said, let's do that. There's really like because we're all partners in this, it's like a lot of it comes from back and forth between Jason and I. I mean, we're all telecommuting, so we don't see Robert or John on a daily basis, but I'm always bouncing ideas back and forth with Jason. It's like, if I come up with something, it's like, I think it needs this, and this in terms of like the fluff and history of the world. I want to, fact check it with him and see if it's okay. Even if it still works in the game, it's like, have I overpowered something? It's something like that. So a lot of the ideas come from Jason and I, and then we'll propose them to the rest of the team, or sometimes I'll go to the limb. Do you do the concept art for some of the stuff, the concept designs?
A lot of the time I'm managing it with some of my artists. Like,
well, I'm saying if you pitch an idea to Jason, do you draw it out? Do you sketch out an idea?
A lot of the times, like I said, it's identifying the roles. There's so many things involved with that. It's like it's height, width, armaments. So we do sketch out some of the ideas. I end up designing a lot of the new weapons for these things. But a lot of that comes down to technical artists like Abelardo Paredes, who does a lot of our mech design, and a lot of our tanks and armor is being redesigned by other freelancers, notably Thomas Schassleitner in Germany, who's got an incredible mechanical and military sense. I'm not sure where it comes from, it's a mystery, but he's amazing.